Imagine this. You're sitting across from a woman you really like. You've spent all this time thinking about what to say, trying to come up with the perfect line that will impress her, maybe even something clever you heard once or read somewhere, and then you deliver it. But the second it leaves your mouth, you can feel it doesn't land the way you hoped. Why? Because she's not hearing your words, she's hearing your intention. She knows whether you're being real with her or just performing. The truth is, no woman, no person, really, wants to feel like you're running a script on them. We can all feel it when someone's trying too hard, when their words are rehearsed or calculated. And while you might think that clever lines are what make you stand out, what actually makes you magnetic is authenticity. When you speak from a place of truth, when you let yourself be vulnerable enough to say what you really think or feel, that's when you connect. Think about it. Let's say you walk up to a woman and say, "You're the most beautiful woman in this room." It's flattering, sure, but she's probably heard something like that before. Now imagine, instead you say, "I have to be honest. I almost didn't come over because I was nervous, but I knew I'd regret it if I left without saying hi." That's not polished. It's not the smoothest line in the world, but it's real. And because it's real, it's powerful. There's a certain bravery in dropping the act and letting someone see you as you are. Women are incredibly perceptive. They can tell when you're showing up with a mask and when you're being genuine. And here's the secret. When you choose authenticity, you're already ahead of 90% of other guys. Most people are so focused on trying to look confident that they forget real confidence comes from owning who you are, even if that means admitting you're not perfect. One of the biggest mistakes men make is thinking they have to say the perfect thing in order to win someone over. But the words themselves matter far less than the energy behind them. If you say something cheesy, but you mean it, it lands differently than if you're just recycling it to fill the silence. I've seen women melt over the simplest, even awkward words, because they were real. Now, let me tell you why authenticity is irresistible. When you're authentic, you give her something rare in today's world: honesty, without an agenda. You're not trying to manipulate her into liking you. You're simply saying, "This is me, and I want to get to know you." That creates safety. That builds trust. And trust is what opens the door to attraction. When you allow yourself to speak authentically, you also give her permission to do the same. She doesn't feel pressured to play a role or perform. She gets to relax and just be herself. And when two people are being real, that's when chemistry happens. It's not about how witty you are or whether you deliver the line perfectly. It's about whether the two of you can connect on a human level. Let me give you an example. Imagine saying, "I really enjoy talking to you. It feels easy." That's not a fireworks statement. It won't end up in a movie script. But when you say it genuinely, looking her in the eye, it makes her feel something. Because it's not about impressing her. It's about sharing your truth in that moment. And that truth is magnetic. Authenticity also has another hidden power. It filters. When you're honest about who you are and how you feel, you naturally attract the people who resonate with you and repel the ones who don't. And that's a good thing. Because if you're pretending, if you're saying things just to get her attention, even if it works, you're setting yourself up for a connection built on a lie. But if you're real, and she responds to that, then you know you're building something solid from the start. So, what should you actually say? The answer is simple. Whatever is true for you in that moment. If you're nervous, say it. If you're intrigued, say it. If you notice something you genuinely admire about her, express it. Don't overthink whether it's the perfect line. The perfect line is the one that reflects the truth of how you feel. The irony is, when you stop trying to be perfect, you come across as more confident. Why? Because confidence isn't pretending you're flawless. It's showing up as yourself, flaws and all, and trusting that's enough. Women don't resist that, because deep down, everyone is looking for someone real, someone who isn't afraid to drop the performance and just connect. And here's the part most people miss. Authenticity doesn't mean oversharing or dumping all your insecurities. It simply means aligning your words with your feelings. If you feel excited, let her see it. If you feel curious, ask the question. If you feel admiration, voice it. The magic is in the honesty, not the polish. So the next time you're tempted to memorize some perfect line or hide behind a rehearsed script, remember this: what will make her lean in, what will make her feel something she can't resist, is not your ability to impress, it's your willingness to be real. Because the most irresistible words you can ever say are the ones that come straight from you. When it comes to compliments, most men go for the obvious. They'll say something about how beautiful she looks, or how gorgeous her smile is, or how amazing her eyes are. And look, there's nothing wrong with appreciating her beauty. Of course, it's natural to notice. But if all you ever do is point out what she's heard 1,000 times before, you're not really saying anything that separates you from the rest. In fact, you're just echoing the background noise that most women have grown used to brushing off. What truly makes a woman stop in her tracks is when you notice the details that most people overlook. It's when you compliment her in a way that shows you've actually been paying attention, that you've taken the time to see her rather than just the surface. That's when a compliment shifts from being flattering to being unforgettable. Imagine the difference between saying, "You look beautiful tonight," versus saying, "I love how animated you get when you talk about something you care about." It's contagious. One is nice, polite even, but it could be said to anyone. The other is deeply personal, and it shows that you're tuned in. You're not just watching her, you're listening to her. And that is rare. When you give a sincere compliment, it does two things at once. First, it makes her feel seen. And for anyone, man or woman, that is one of the most powerful feelings in the world. We all go through life feeling invisible far too often, like people are only skimming the surface of who we are. When someone points out something deeper, something about our personality, our character, our uniqueness, it creates an instant connection. Second, it makes you stand out, because in a sea of generic compliments, your words don't just flatter, they resonate. I remember a guy once telling me, "I always thought women wanted to hear how hot they look. But the moment I started noticing their energy, their quirks, the way they tell a story, it completely changed how they responded." And of course it did, because suddenly he wasn't just another guy admiring their beauty. He was acknowledging something they didn't even realize someone else could notice. That's when a woman thinks, "This man actually sees me." And I'll tell you why that's irresistible. Physical beauty might catch someone's eye, but being truly seen, that touches the soul. That goes beyond attraction and into the realm of connection. And at the end of the day, it's connection that people crave. The key here is sincerity. Women have an incredible radar for authenticity. If you're complimenting her just to get in her good graces, she'll feel it. If you're saying something you don't really mean, it'll land flat. But if you genuinely notice something and voice it, no matter how simple, it carries weight. Even something like, "You make people feel comfortable around you." That's a rare quality. Can light her up because it's real. What's more, compliments that focus on her essence instead of her appearance create a completely different kind of attraction. When you admire her kindness, her humor, her creativity, her intelligence, you're telling her she's more than just her looks. And for a woman, that's powerful, because while beauty fades, while outfits and makeup come and go, the core of who she is, that's what she wants to be loved for. But here's something important to remember: don't force it. Don't go fishing for qualities to compliment just to tick a box. Stay present. Actually listen to her. Watch how she lights up when she talks about something she's passionate about. Notice the way she cares for people around her, or how she carries herself when she walks into a room. Compliments should be born from genuine curiosity and attention. The more present you are, the more you'll naturally find things to appreciate. And don't underestimate the small moments. Maybe she laughs in a way that's completely unself-conscious, and you say, "I love that laugh. It's so genuine." Maybe she orders her coffee in a particular way, and you smile and say, "That's oddly specific. I like that you know exactly what you want." It's not about grandeur, it's about precision. The sharper your focus, the more personal your words become, and the more they stick. I want you to think about the last time you received a compliment that really stayed with you. I bet it wasn't about your looks. I bet it was about something deeper. Something you maybe didn't even think other people noticed. That's the kind of compliment that makes us feel seen, valued, and unforgettable. That's the kind of compliment that lingers long after the moment has passed. So if you want to say something no woman can resist, forget about trying to impress her with how attractive you think she is. Instead, show her that you actually see her. Show her that you've been paying attention, that you notice the things other people overlook. Because when you do that, you're not just flattering her, you're connecting with her. And connection, more than anything else, is what makes words irresistible. Because at the end of the day, the compliment she'll never forget is the one that tells her she's not just beautiful, she's unforgettable. If there's one thing that will make a woman sit up and take notice, it's when you make her feel valued and respected. Respect is not just about good manners, although that matters too. Respect is about the way you speak to her, the way you acknowledge her as a person, and the way you show her that you see her as an equal. Because here's the truth: attraction without respect is shallow. It might spark for a moment, but it won't last. What women can't resist is when they feel like they're in the presence of someone who sees their worth. Think about how most interactions go. A lot of guys lead with ego. They think the way to impress a woman is by showing off, making themselves look bigger, smarter, more accomplished. And sometimes they do this by minimizing her in subtle ways. They might interrupt her stories, talk over her, or dismiss her opinions as if they don't matter. They don't even realize they're doing it. But women feel it instantly. And the moment she feels like you don't respect her, any chance of real attraction dies right there. On the flip side, when you use your words to acknowledge her intelligence, her independence, her achievements, that's when everything shifts. If you say to a woman, "I really admire how passionate you are about your work," or "I respect how you carry yourself in situations that most people would find difficult," You're not just giving a compliment, you're showing her that you value her substance. And that's magnetic. Women want to be with someone who recognizes that their value is more than skin deep. Beauty, charm, style. All of that is wonderful. But what really makes a woman feel drawn to you is when she knows you're attracted to her mind, her spirit, her strength. Respect is sexy because it's the foundation of trust. And when a woman trusts that you see her as an equal, she can finally relax and open up to you. Respect also shows up in the little things. It's in the way you listen without cutting her off. It's in asking follow-up questions that show you're genuinely interested in what she has to say. It's in giving her the space to share her perspective, even when it's different from yours. And when you do disagree, it's in how you handle it. Do you dismiss her? Or do you say, "That's interesting? I hadn't thought of it that way before." Those small words communicate volumes. They tell her you value her mind, not just her beauty. Here's something most men don't realize. The way you talk about other women in front of her is just as important as the way you talk to her. If you show respect for women in general, your colleagues, your friends, your family, she notices. She's listening. And when she hears you speak about women with admiration rather than judgment, with appreciation rather than cynicism, she can't help but feel safer with you. Because she sees that your respect isn't selective. It's part of who you are. Now, there's a misconception I need to clear up. Respecting a woman doesn't mean putting her on a pedestal and worshipping her. That's not respect. That's idolization, and it often comes from insecurity. Real respect is about equality. It's about saying, "I see you, I value you, and I admire you, but I also bring value myself." Respect isn't about making yourself smaller to make her feel bigger. It's about both of you showing up fully and appreciating each other's strengths. When you show respect through your words, you're also showing that you have standards. You're not trying to win her over by pandering or people-pleasing. You're showing that you recognize qualities in her that you genuinely admire. That kind of validation doesn't come across as flattery. It comes across as strength, and strength paired with respect is incredibly attractive. Respect also builds desire in a way that surface-level compliments never can. When you acknowledge her intelligence, she feels seen. When you admire her independence, she feels valued. When you recognize her strength, she feels empowered. And the irony is, the more you respect her independence, the more she wants to share herself with you. Because no one wants to be with someone who makes them feel smaller. People want to be with someone who makes them feel bigger, brighter, more themselves. The most irresistible thing you can say is often the simplest. Words like, "I really respect how you handled that situation," or "I admire your discipline," or even, "I love that you have your own vision for your life." Those words go so much deeper than, "You're beautiful." They don't just make her smile in the moment. They stay with her. They remind her that you see something in her that she wants to be seen. And here's the beauty of respect. It doesn't just make her feel good about you. It makes her feel good about herself. And when someone feels more like their best self around you, they can't resist being drawn to you. Because at the end of the day, respect is the soil in which attraction grows. One of the most powerful things you can ever give to a woman is a sense of emotional safety. When I say safety, I don't mean physical protection. Although of course that matters too. What I'm talking about is a kind of safety that allows her to let down her guard, to show you who she really is, without fear of judgment, rejection, or being taken advantage of. And this is where your words have so much power. What you say and how you say it can either create an environment where she feels secure and open, or one where she feels she has to keep her walls up. Most people don't realize how rare emotional safety really is. We live in a world where everyone is used to being judged by how they look, what they do, the choices they make. And because of that, people learn to protect themselves. Women especially are constantly navigating environments where they're objectified, compared, or dismissed. So when she meets someone who, with his words, makes her feel like she doesn't have to perform, like she can just be, that's a game changer. Let me give you an example. Imagine she shares something vulnerable, maybe a fear or a dream that feels risky to admit. If you laugh it off or minimize it, she instantly regrets opening up. She thinks, I shouldn't have said that. But if instead you say something like, I get that. Thank you for sharing that with me. Or, I really respect that you feel comfortable enough to tell me that. Everything changes. Suddenly, she feels safe. And that safety makes her want to share more. It's not about pretending to have all the right answers or knowing exactly what to say in every situation. It's about showing her through your words that you're listening, that you're not going to use her vulnerability against her, and that her feelings matter. That's what emotional safety sounds like. And it's incredibly attractive because trust and attraction are deeply connected. Think about it this way: you can be the most charming, good-looking person in the world, but if she doesn't feel safe with you, she won't let herself go there emotionally. Attraction may spark, but it won't deepen. On the other hand, if your words consistently show her that you're trustworthy, empathetic, and kind, then attraction isn't just sparked, it grows. It roots itself in something real. And here's the beautiful part: creating emotional safety doesn't mean you have to be perfect or overly serious all the time. It can be light, it can even be playful. Sometimes safety is created simply by letting her know, through your tone and your presence, that you're not going to mock her or dismiss her for being herself. Even something as simple as saying, I love how honest you are, when she shares something personal, reinforces that it's safe for her to be open. Your words can also create safety by showing consistency. If you say you'll do something, follow through. If you give a compliment, let it be real, not just something to get a reaction. If she notices that your words match your actions, she feels she can trust you. And that trust is what allows her to lean in, to invest, to let her walls down. Now, some men worry that creating emotional safety makes them less attractive, as if being kind and trustworthy somehow puts them in the friend zone. That couldn't be further from the truth. What actually happens is that safety creates the space for attraction to flourish, because no woman can feel truly drawn to someone she doesn't trust. If she feels unsafe, she may be intrigued for a moment, but she won't stay. Safety doesn't kill attraction. It deepens it. Here's something else to remember. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say isn't complicated. It might be as simple as, I hear you, or that makes sense, or I get why you feel that way. Those words seem small, but they're like keys that unlock more of who she is. Because once she knows she's not going to be judged or dismissed, she'll show you sides of herself that most people never get to see. And that's when the connection becomes irresistible. The truth is, women don't resist men who make them feel safe. They lean into them. They open up. They invest more. Because what everyone is ultimately looking for is someone they can trust with their heart. When your words create that kind of environment, You stop being just another guy trying to impress her, and you become someone she wants to let into her world. Because at the end of the day, emotional safety is the bridge that turns attraction into connection. One of the biggest mistakes people make when they're trying to connect with someone is believing the secret lies in saying something impressive. They rack their brain for a witty line, a clever story, or some kind of magic phrase that will make the other person lean in. But the truth is, the most irresistible words you can say often come in the form of a question. Not just any question, a question that shows genuine curiosity about who she is, what matters to her, and how she sees the world. You see, most women are used to being asked the same boring things over and over again. Where are you from? What do you do? How was your day? And while there's nothing wrong with those questions, they don't exactly spark excitement. They're functional. They keep a conversation alive, but they don't make her feel alive. What makes her light up is when someone asks a question that digs a little deeper, a question that says, I want to know you, not just the surface level stuff you show everyone else. Imagine asking a woman, what's something you're working on right now that you're proud of? Or, what's a place you've always wanted to go because you feel like it would change you? Or even, what's a small thing that instantly makes your day better? Those kinds of questions are irresistible because they don't just fill the silence. They make her feel valued. They show her you're not just trying to pass the time. You're trying to discover her. Here's why this matters so much. Attraction isn't just about how you make someone feel about you. It's about how you make them feel about themselves when they're around you. When your words pull out parts of her that she doesn't usually get to share, she associates that feeling with you. She thinks, I feel more like myself when I'm with him. And that is one of the most powerful forms of connection you can create. There's something deeply flattering about curiosity. When you ask thoughtful questions, you're saying, you matter. What you think, what you feel, what you dream about, it's worth my time and attention. That's rare, and that's why it works. Because we live in a world where everyone is rushing to talk about themselves, and the person who slows down and really wants to listen stands out. But curiosity alone isn't enough. It has to be paired with presence. If you ask a great question, but then zone out while she's answering, it's worse than not asking at all. The magic is in actually caring about her response. That's when your follow-up questions, your reactions, your laughter, or your surprise. All of it shows her that you're not just filling space, you're building something. When you create this kind of shared space through questions, you also tap into something incredibly powerful: vision. Attraction is fueled not only by who someone is right now, but by who they want to become. When you invite a woman to talk about her dreams, her goals, her passions, you're connecting with her future self as well as her present self. That makes her feel seen in a way that very few people ever make her feel. Now, let's be clear. This doesn't mean interrogating her or turning every conversation into a therapy session. It's not about prying. It's about sprinkling curiosity in naturally, in a way that makes her feel lighter, not heavier. If you're listening to her talk about something she enjoys and you ask, what do you love most about that? That's natural. If she shares a story from her past and you say, what did that teach you? That's natural. It's about following the thread of what she gives you and gently pulling it to see what else is there. The other reason shared vision and curiosity are irresistible is that they create alignment. You start to discover the things you both care about, the experiences you both want to have, the values you both hold. And when she hears herself saying, "May too," or "I've always thought that," she begins to imagine what it would be like to share a life with someone who gets her. That's where attraction deepens into possibility. Even if you don't have the exact same dreams, curiosity still builds connection. Because it's not about agreeing on everything. It's about showing respect for her world and allowing her to step into yours. She might want to travel the world while you're more rooted, but if you ask her about the places she longs to see and share why you love the place you call home, that's a rich conversation. That's the kind of exchange that builds intimacy. So often, men try to impress women with answers. But the truth is, the thing that really makes you unforgettable is the quality of your questions. Your ability to go beyond the surface, to draw her out, to show her that her mind and heart matter to you. Because when she feels that, she can't help but feel more connected. And when she feels connected, attraction becomes effortless. Because at the end of the day, curiosity is what turns words into a bridge between two people. There's a kind of language that most people underestimate when it comes to attraction. It's not clever lines, it's not poetic declarations, and it's not even the compliments we've already talked about. It's the language of empowerment, the words that make someone feel stronger, braver, and more alive after talking to you than they did before. When you use your words to lift a woman up, to remind her of her own potential, to make her feel like she can step even more fully into the person she wants to be, that's when you become unforgettable. Think about how most conversations go. People are often neutral at best and critical at worst. They'll point out flaws, tease in a way that cuts a little too deep, or focus on what's lacking. So, when you show up and use your words to affirm someone's strengths, it immediately sets you apart. Imagine a woman tells you about a challenge she's facing at work. Most people might say, "That sounds tough," and leave it there. But if you say, "I can tell from the way you're handling it that you've got real resilience," she doesn't just feel heard. She feels empowered. She leaves the conversation thinking not only about you, but about herself in a new, stronger light. Empowering words are irresistible because they aren't just about you admiring her. They're about helping her admire herself. And that's a gift most people don't give. We live in a world where many women are constantly doubting themselves, questioning whether they're good enough, capable enough, or worthy enough. When you use your words to affirm her value in a way that feels authentic, you're not creating attraction through flattery. You're creating attraction through impact. She connects you with the best version of herself. And let's be clear, empowerment doesn't mean empty hype. It's not about saying, "You're amazing," in a generic way that could apply to anyone. It's about being specific, noticing the qualities she shows you, and reflecting them back to her. If she tells you she's training for a marathon, you might say, "That kind of discipline is rare. I admire that." If she talks about supporting her friends through something difficult, you could say, "You clearly have a big heart, and people must feel lucky to have you in their corner." These aren't throwaway lines. They're mirrors. You're holding up a mirror to the parts of her she most wants recognized. What happens when you speak to someone in an empowering way is that they begin to feel safe, to dream bigger in your presence. If you encourage her curiosity, her creativity, her ambition, she associates you with growth. And we're all drawn to the people who expand us rather than shrink us. That's why empowerment is so magnetic. It doesn't just feel good in the moment. It plants a seed that grows long after the conversation is over. The beauty of empowering language is also in how subtle it can be. Sometimes it's not a grand statement, it's just a nudge. If she doubts herself and says, "I don't know if I could ever do that," you might respond, "From what I see, you're more capable than you give yourself credit for." That simple sentence might replay in her head for weeks. It's not about the top encouragement. It's about reminding her of what she already has inside her. Here's the thing. When you consistently use words that empower, you become someone she wants to be around. Not because you're always praising her, but because you bring out the part of her that feels strongest, most alive, most herself. And who wouldn't want to be near that? Attraction isn't just about chemistry. It's about association. If she associates you with self-doubt, she'll resist you. If she associates you with strength, she'll lean into you. Now, let me add one more layer to this. Empowerment isn't just about what you say to her. It's also about how you talk about yourself and life in general. If your words are filled with negativity, cynicism, or bitterness, it's hard to make someone feel inspired around you. But if your language reflects optimism, growth, and belief in possibility, she'll feel that energy. And when you direct that same energy toward her, it's irresistible. The men who stand out aren't the ones who try to make women feel smaller so they can look bigger. They're the ones who make women feel bigger because they themselves are secure enough not to be threatened by someone else's light. That security comes through in your words. It comes through when you say, "I admire that you have such big goals," instead of trying to undercut them. It comes through when you say, "I love that you stand your ground," instead of trying to silence her. Empowering language doesn't just build attraction. It builds respect, admiration, and trust. It creates a dynamic where she knows she can grow beside you rather than shrink around you. And that's when relationships go from exciting to lasting. Because at the end of the day, the most irresistible words are the ones that don't just make her feel good about you. They make her feel extraordinary about herself.